Welcome to the Infowars Nightly News. I'm David Knight. It's Monday, June 5th, 2017. Here are our top stories.
Tonight, say it isn't so. One of the terrorists who carried out Saturday night's deadly rampage in London turns out to be a Muslim refugee. Meanwhile, heroes begin to emerge from the London Bridge as we look at one of the men who led the charge in fighting against the terrorists. Then, how do we fight radical Muslim extremists, border patrol, and armed citizens? Not federal government control of the internet. All that, plus the ultimate culture clash. Islam versus Christianity. That's coming up next on the Infowars Nightly News.
During this Memorial Day, I want to thank the veterans that have fought, but of course, most importantly, those that have died, because that's what this holiday and remembrance is all about. Take advantage of these unprecedented specials and help support the tip of the spear in the fight against the globalists while supplies last. These are the biggest sales ever on these items. You add auto ship, several of these are lost leaders. So for myself and the entire Infowars crew, I salute you and thank you for all your prayers on this Memorial Day. Just understand that without you, there'd be nothing, because you are the Infowar.
Does your shampoo leave your scalp itchy and your hair dry and frizzy? Introducing Emmerich's Essentials Natural Herbal Shampoo. Made with organic oils for an exhilarating fragrance. Enjoy all-natural and chemical-free shampoo for a healthier you. Gentle enough for color-treated hair and sensitive scalps. Only pure, organic, antiseptic herbs that have demonstrated antimicrobial activity are used. Go natural. Go organic. No parabens or sulfates. Nothing to weigh you down. Get cleaner, healthier hair with Emmerich's Essentials Tea Tree Shampoo.
By their fruit, you will know them. A good tree will give forth good fruit. A bad tree will give forth bad fruit. We have to understand that civilizations and cultures are based upon a system of beliefs. So we're going to look tonight at a couple of individuals out of this London attack. We're going to take a look at what kind of culture, what kind of man Islam produces, and what kind of culture and man the Lord Jesus Christ produces. So we're going to take a look at a gleeful terrorist and the Christian hero, a reluctant hero who stopped him. Now, we've got other attacks that are happening today because, of course, it is Ramadan, and it has absolutely nothing to do with Islam, right? Except that during Ramadan, we have seen just a week ago in Baghdad, we had dozens of people killed with bombings in Iraq. We had in the Muslim Philippines a massive outbreak of terrorism that looks like Syria. Entire towns are being fought for. We have martial law that is still in effect there. And now in Australia, we have a gunman taking hostages, telling the station, this is for ISIS. He took a woman hostage. He is suspected of killing another man. He called up a TV newsroom during the siege to claim, this is for IS. This is for Al-Qaeda. This is for Allah, folks. This is what the terrorist said last week. And, you know, even before we knew those kinds of details, as soon as I heard this, I tweeted out, unconfirmed reports. We got a car that's driven into a crowd, I said at the time. I said 3 men jumped out. It's what we're hearing at the moment. And this is as it first happened. Jumped out with knives, or slitting throats. They stabbed a girl in the chest and so forth. I said, religion of peace, because that's what we always hear. And I had somebody come back and say, very Christian of you. What would Jesus say? And I said, well, try reading what Jesus said and did. He whipped the bankers. These are the same guys that are starting the wars, that are bringing in the terrorists today. She said, I was brought up on Christianity, and I don't recognize any of your beliefs. And I said, and then she said, try thinking for yourself. and stop relying on ancient texts. Well, she doesn't understand it, but those ancient texts are the foundations of societies, of cultures, of civilizations. And if you don't understand the foundations of the Islamic culture and beliefs, if you don't understand that our pluralistic society, our tolerant society, is truly based on Christianity, then you're going to lose something very valuable. You know, the entire worldwide caliphate that doesn't exist, but that the Muslims are trying to create, the fact that it doesn't exist is an affront to the truth, to the falsity of their religion. You know, had one of the other things that Jesus said about the good fruit, the bad fruit. He also said, beware of false prophets who come dressed in sheep clothing, but inside they are ravaging wolves. And that's precisely what we see with this individual. This is a guy, 27-year-old Karam Shahzad Butt, who came to Britain as a child when his parents were looking for asylum from Pakistan because their religion and the foundation of that society was tearing it apart. So he came as the son of a refugee. And one woman, as we have on the Infowars report from Paul Joseph Watson, one woman who didn't want to be named, of course, because why? There would be recriminations from the religion of peace. Do not offend them. They will kill you. She said she stared angrily whenever he saw women cycling on the estate, bicycling on the area. She described him as sinister and sexist. Well, maybe that's why this coward stabbed multiple women in the chest, slit their throats. He didn't just hate women. He hates anybody who does not subscribe to his false religion. And as Watson goes on to point out, the same documentary that he was featured in, and this is the key, folks, the British government knew they were there. The British television station, BBC, Channel 4, did a documentary, The Jihadis Next Door. They featured that last year. He was featured in that. And as part of that, you see this guy unfurling a flag of ISIS in the park, all of these guys worshiping that flag of ISIS, that cult of death. What did the police do? Nothing. They had an altercation. Maybe they had some harsh words. Oh, that would be terrible, wouldn't it? And yet, they did nothing. They allowed this guy to be there. So he flew his flag, they documented that he was a terrorist, and they allowed him to stay. They didn't jail him, they didn't deport him, and now people have died. There they are. Butts in the air. And that's his name, actually, is Butt. Nevertheless, when asked if he supports ISIS, the man responded, no comment in the documentary, before subsequently admitting that he would be arrested if he answered the question properly. And Watson finishes by saying, the fact is that at the bare minimum, there are 3,000 such individuals roaming the UK who will never be arrested or deported for their jihadist views because Britain is a country where being politically correct is deemed to be more important than stopping terrorism. And so what do we know about this guy? As I said before, he's a gleeful terrorist, engaged in his religion, his cult of death, about to do the consummate act, mass murder. And this is what we see from the neighbors. He was such a nice guy. I put a report out while we were in Bilderberg. Mainstream media on terrorists, he was such a nice guy, especially nice on the day that he performed his final rituals of mass murder. And this is what one of the people who lived close to him said. I knew he lectured people on the Quran, they said. And there were always people dressed in robes coming in and out of his apartment. He was always nice. But yesterday, he was an entirely different level of niceness. He was so happy. He had a barbecue. Perhaps not the kind of North Carolina pulled pork that we have, but he had a barbecue. He was celebrating this religious ceremony, a mass murder for his false god, Allah. He's, of course, he's embarking. He says, last week he called for a barbecue and he invited all of us. It was a celebration. Now, I want to contrast this guy who is so gleeful, who is holding a celebratory barbecue as he's going to go out and murder innocent people. As these guys, as I'm going to show you right here, eyewitness reports how they teamed up on unarmed women, stabbing them repeatedly. These monsters. This is the bad fruit of Islam, the bad fruit of a false prophet, Muhammad. He said, this is an individual. This is Ozzy. They only identify him. Why? Don't they give him his last name? Well, because he would probably be hunted down by the religion of peace and executed. So they only give his first name. He's a doorman. And he is the reluctant hero. He works at the Wheat Sheaf pub in Borough Market, and they say he led a brave charge, this is the Sun, UK, a brave charge against the maniacs despite fearing that they had suicide bomb vests after seeing them repeatedly knifing a woman. A close friend said he was with his 7-year-old son yesterday, and the kid's mom told him, your dad's a hero. He saved people's lives last night. And his son said, they said, we didn't want to give him too much information. He's too young to really understand this. And the son said, my dad is always a hero. Why is he a hero? Who has been following? Who has informed his beliefs? What has formed his character? Christ. Christ has formed his character. We'll see that in a minute. But what did he hear there from these followers of Islam, these followers of Muhammad? He said, I heard a serious amount of screaming and commotion coming from the street. Me and a few of the doormen went to see what had happened. We saw 3 guys in camouflage trousers stabbing this woman. They were all surrounding her, knifing her repeatedly. Why? What had she done to them? What had she done to them? Nothing. About 10 times, he said. Then suddenly they looked up and they started running toward other individuals. And they say Ozzy is understood to be a Pentecostal Christian. He initially fled before doubling back. He said, I realized that I had to do something. If I hadn't turned back, there would have been so many people caught up in the panic, there would have been more hurt. Well, why did he do this? I think the key to this is to understand the difference in the way Christians and Muslims use the word martyr. Martyr is a Greek word. It means witness. The early Christians were witnesses to Christ, to the miracles, to the life that he had led. They refused to recant. They were executed by the Romans, and they would not refuse. They would not recant what they had seen. They were witnesses. That was the most important thing to them. Martyrs, witnesses. They were willing to die rather than to deny what they had seen. But the Muslims come along and they co-opt that. They said, oh, martyr, that's death. Oh, we can use that. So martyrs in Islam are people who kill others and kill themselves. You see the difference, the key difference. The difference is that this Christian martyr, the guy who was willing to lay down his life because he had seen Christ lay down his life for him, that's the difference. Defending innocent life. That's the difference between Christianity and Islam. He said, me and another guy started launching bar stools, bottles, glasses at them to try to disrupt them. It was completely chaotic, like a war zone. They ran through the barrage, we deflected them, and they literally ran straight into the cops who shot them. That's the way it stopped. With good men, armed with guns. That's why we need to have an armed citizenry. We'll get to that in a moment. But then, of course, CNN comes to the rescue, defending this religion, this cult of death, trying to put it out there as a religion of peace. And of course, we had earlier today on the Alex Jones radio show, we talked to the individual who filmed the fake CNN rescue of Islam's reputation. What they did was and I tweeted this out, I said, here's how CNN fake news works. You call central casting, you get some Muslim women, you position them carefully for a photo op, and then you cue the scripted narrative. And now they're coming back and saying, well, they really were there because they wanted to oppose what had happened. We just happened to give them the signs. We switched out the police. We let them through the police line. We did everything. We set this up, staged it completely. You can see them as they're doing that. CNN reporters, Paul Joseph Watson points out, organized and directed a group of Muslims holding anti-terror signs the day after Islamic terrorists killed 7, injured nearly 50 in London. And he says, why CNN's denial that they staged a Muslim anti-terror protest is total BS. He points out the police allowed demonstrators through the cordon so they could show their signs to the media. They took out the real cops, they put in community cops. And here's what Watson says. He says, can you imagine any other scenario outside of CNN wanting to push a narrative that they would behave like this? If Tommy Robinson, a guy who's well known in the UK for opposing Sharia law, if he were to stage a protest after a massive London terror attack, would the police let him through a cordon? Would the Muslim officers be placed alongside him to make sure that his message looked authentic and pluralistic and multicultural? No, they wouldn't. Would CNN reporters carefully shepherd other protesters into a neat formation so they could get the best shot? Of course not. None of this would happen. CNN wouldn't even cover an anti-Sharia protest because it doesn't fit their agenda that Islam is a religion of peace. So I had some people tweet me back and say, well, shouldn't this be illegal? No, it shouldn't be illegal. But we should understand that CNN has a legal right to make fictional films. The public just needs to know that it's not news. Maybe they should put something at the bottom of the beginning of their news to say this is based on a true story, but not exactly true, because that's really what's going on. Meanwhile, what do we see coming from the political leaders in England? We have London Mayor Khan, who's been telling us the big deal is climate change. That's the real threat. That's going to burn down the world. Perhaps, as I pointed out, and I did a short little report on this while I was there, Bilderberg says terrorist van carbon footprint is more dangerous than a bigger threat than the people running people down with this van or jumping out with knives. And, of course, the mayor of London is one of those people. And we have Theresa May, who is telling us that the real problem is the internet. The internet is a breeding ground for terrorism. It is not the religion of peace. It is not Islam. It is not the false prophet Muhammad, the wolf in sheep's clothing. No, it is not that. It is not our open borders. It's not the fact that we let these people in and that our countries become a breeding ground for terrorism, just as these foreign countries have become. No, it isn't that. It's the internet. It's your free speech. That's the problem. That has to be attacked. And I think it's interesting that MIT Technology Review today came out and directly attacked Theresa May, saying she wants to end safe spaces for terrorists on the internet. What does that even mean? How could you even do that? They point out how absurd that is technologically. She said the internet, the big companies, are providing safe spaces for extremism. And they said, this is a country that already grants its government some of the most sweeping digital surveillance powers of any democracy. And, of course, MIT doesn't point it out, but they have draconian free speech laws. If you're not politically correct, they will come after you very hard. So will MIT, as a matter of fact. But then they point out the technological issues before us. They say even if all the necessary state-mandated technical steps were taken by the purveyors of commercial software and devices like Google or Apple, say, anyone who wanted to could easily skirt their restrictions by running open source versions of the software or unlocking phones. And then here's the obvious thing that they point out. They talk about a street preacher, a British lawyer who has been a hate preacher, a jihadist polemicist, Anjem Choudhury, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. But they point out that he was a real-life radical preacher who recruited people face to face. He was much more important for jihad in Britain than Twitter or Facebook. How is he recruiting people face to face? It's because they have open borders, because they do not want to jail or deport people who are preaching hate face to face. That is the breeding ground for terrorism, not our freedoms. And of course, it's another reminder as we look at the consequences of this, and we understand that 90% of the police in the UK are unarmed. Only people that are like their SWAT teams are allowed to have weapons. And so many of the police were running as well. Some of them acted as heroes with their bare hands, were severely wounded because they did not have the equipment and the training that they needed to address this fault. And of course, we have the opposite problem here in America. We have police who are trained to shoot first and not try to defuse the situation. Can we not find a happy middle ground? Can we not train people to not use excessive force, but give them the tools to use appropriate force when we have something like this? But the real key is that you are the first responder. This went on for 8 minutes. And as Sheriff Clark has said many times, we can't always be there. You have to defend yourself until we get there. We'll do what we can as the police, but you have to be able to defend yourself. That's why we have the Second Amendment in this country. It's very important that we have the Second Amendment. And when we come back, I'm going to talk about how people in America are arming themselves because we understand the threat. We'll be right back.
Thanks to your support, Infowars has been able to expand its operations against the globalists at this critical time. And it's absolutely essential that we expand in the face of the enemy because, as history shows, political movements only expand or contract. And that's why the globalists are hitting us with everything they've got. Censorship, demonization, attacks, misrepresentations. They're not just trying to shut down Infowars. They're trying to fire Sean Hannity. They're trying to cull talk radio. They're trying to silence true, independent, nationalistic media. And Infowars is at the very heart of that resistance. We all see the dumbed-down trendies that appear to be soulless and how they're obsessed with consumerism and criticizing capitalism as they walk around in their expensive Nike tennis shoes and have their slave-made iPhones. So I personally am disgusted by empty consumerism. But the globalists want to get rid of free markets because there is such a thing as positive consumerism historically, where people can use the power they have of the purse to actually support building free and independent economies. So you're not just getting amazing products when you go to InfoWarsStore.com. You're also supporting a broadcast that is the very front lines of the resistance against the globalist. Now, we offer a lot of specials at InfoWarsStore.com on nutraceuticals, on high-quality water filtration systems, you name it. But these particular specials that we're offering for Memorial Day and out into next week are undoubtedly some of the best we've ever offered. On the subject of colloidal silver, and of course with Knockout and Brain Force, these are the best deals ever. 65% off high-quality colloidal silver. Sign up for auto ship, an additional 10% off. That is 75% off. That's at least 15 points lower than we've ever gone to introduce folks to high-quality colloidal silver who perhaps have never gotten it before. We've got Brain Force, 47% off. Secret 12, 43. Knockout Sleep Aid, 50%. Survival Shield, back in stock, 40% off. Super Male, sold out for months, 30% off. And you sign up for auto ship, cancel anytime, you get an additional 10% off on that as well at InfoWarsStore.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139. In closing, we've already come this far together, and we've seen the devastating effects truth has against the global crime syndicate, but the enemy's striking back. So again, from myself, the entire InfoWars crew, I want to salute and thank all of you. No matter what color you are or where you came from, if the love of liberty and justice beats in your heart, if the love of standing up against tyrants flows through your veins, we are all brothers and sisters together in this epic experiment that is life. So again, thank you all for your support. Visit InfoWarsStore.com today to get some of the best deals ever offered on incredible nutraceuticals, supplements, and so much more. Today we call it bone broth, and for thousands of years our ancestors enjoyed its benefits before it became lost to our modern diets of processed junk. We are now introducing Caveman by InfoWarsLive.com, the ultimate in true paleo nutrition with bone broth, turmeric root, chaga mushroom, and 7 total primal superfoods in a single great tasting formula. Caveman. It's those people living in the wilds having to actually build civilization that are our superior ancestors, and we need to do everything we can to recapture that. Everyone knew that you used all the parts of the animal. You used the meat for sustenance, the fat for cooking, but you used the bones for strength. From the outside structure full of minerals and key cofactors to the marrow that produces the blood for the body, this is the engine of the life essence. I'm a long way from the caveman my ancestors were, but I'm sure as hell trying to get back to that essence that made us what we were, and this is a big part of it. I know you're going to want to check out Caveman Ultimate Paleo Formula for yourself at InfoWarsLife.com today.
Welcome back. As we went to break, I was telling you that the real tools to control the jihadis that are coming in, even if we can't get them out, we still have a right to protect ourselves. That's a fundamental individual right, a God-given right. The Second Amendment does not grant that right. Government can't take that away. The Second Amendment is there to make sure that government does not take it away. And yet, they do take away our Fourth Amendment, our Fifth Amendment, our Sixth Amendment, so many of our rights. And we have Theresa May in the UK trying to take away freedom of speech, saying that the internet is a breeding ground for terrorism. Let's take a look at what's happening in America. In America, we have a new record. This is a report from Washington Examiner via the Drudge Report. A new record. America arms itself, taking necessary steps to defend ourselves. The spurt in terror attacks are pushing gun sales into record territory just months after predictions that the election of a pro-gun president would end the rush. Remember? We'd all heard that Barack Obama was the greatest gun salesman of all time, and he was. Everybody was rushing to get guns before he tried to make it illegal or make ammunition illegal. But as they were concerned that this would all stop because we had a pro-Second Amendment, pro-self-defense president in Donald Trump, the FBI has reported that the number of gun sale background checks for May was the highest ever for May. Nearly 2 million. A trend that will make 2017 the first or second highest year for gun sales. They say this is in stark contrast to what some in the media and industry feared, that the election of President Trump would snuff out sales that in 2016 were driven by concerns that Hillary Clinton would be far worse than even Barack Obama, that she would implement strict gun control, that she would have an assault weapons ban. And yes, she would have. If Hillary Clinton was president, and this is one thing that we need to think about as we look at the Trump presidency. we would be fighting for our lives, quite literally, because she would be doing everything to take away our right of self-defense here in America as she brought in more and more jihadi terrorists. And now we're working in the other direction, hopefully. Now, as we talked about this, and I tweeted this out, this was the issue. I talked about how even the UK, they don't trust even their police to have weapons. Their trained, uniformed people are not even allowed to have weapons, let alone their individual citizens who really need to be able to protect themselves before the police can get there. You are the first responder. You have to understand that, of course. And so I had people coming back and complaining to me and saying, oh, look at all the gun deaths that have happened in the United States. Well, that may be, we all play games with statistics, don't we? Especially the left. They say, well, gun deaths, it could be anybody that was killed by a gun. It could be a suicide. It could be somebody who was a jihadi, for example, who was killed before they killed more people. That would be a gun death. You know, we shot this guy who was committing armed robbery, or you shot this guy who was trying to kill you, or who was raping a woman and coming after you, or whatever. Those self-defense shootings or those justified killings by the police, those are all counted along with gun deaths. It's not all accidental deaths or innocent people being killed. And so I said, you know, there were 3 people who deserved to die on the London Bridge attacks, and they were all killed by guns, weren't they? They were all killed by guns. But there were 7 people who did not deserve to die. They were killed by cars. They were killed by knives. And, of course, we're going to have the government trying to take our cars away from us. I'm sure that they will use this as justification for car control, just as they have used this for justification for gun control. But they will not control our borders. They will not allow us to vet the terrorists who are coming into this country. And I just want to remind those who like to look at these gun totals, the number of gun deaths, and do it indiscriminately, as I said before, all accidental deaths, all suicidal deaths, all deaths of people who deserved to be killed because they were threatening the lives of other people at the time. They were killed in self-defense. Remember this from just a couple of weeks ago, this story, and this one was picked up on multiple outlets. Here's Zero Hedge's report of John R. Lott, the Crime Prevention Research Center. They point out that 51% of murders in the U.S. come from just 2% of the counties. Guess what the gun control laws are in that 2%? They have very stringent gun control laws. It's in the areas where they have gun freedom that they have the least amount of deaths. They pointed out that 54% of the countries with 11% of the population have no murders. 69% of the counties have no more than 1 murder, and about 20% of the population. They point out that the worst 1% of the counties in the United States have 19% of the population and 37% of the murders. The worst 5% of the counties contain 47% of the population, and they account for 68% of the murders. They say, to put it differently, only the top 4% of the counties have 16 or more murders. So our gun violence is concentrated into areas where there's strict gun control. And we also understand that most of these murders, even a lot of the innocent people who were shot, is because of gang violence. And that is directly tied to our unconstitutional war on drugs. It's not a problem with people who had weapons to protect themselves. But as I said before, they're going to try to control not only our guns, but they're going to try to control our transportation. Another example of this today, series of articles that Drudge is quickly picking up, and he's been key in terms of understanding, I think, showing people where this is all headed with self-driving cars and the loss of our freedom. How Mercedes plans to recapture its early lead in robocars. They say 3 decades ago, an experimental Mercedes van managed to steer, brake, and accelerate on its own. Well, it wasn't even that long ago that we saw that with the Michael Hastings murder, wasn't it? We said that at the time. We said Mercedes, even though they didn't have fully autonomous driving vehicles, they had more subsystems than any other car company at the time. And we had Richard Clark, he was formerly on the National Security Council. He was also the U.S. National Coordinator for Security, Infrastructure, and Counterterrorism. And he said there's enough systems there that you could kill somebody by taking over their car. He was the only person saying that of any authority. We were saying it, and they were calling us tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists. But that is a real concern. They say that they're positioning Mercedes. They're concerned about that. But understand, it's not just Mercedes only. We just saw the CEO of Ford. They've been very, very profitable. Fields, who was taken out. Even though they were extremely popular, their stock was not doing well because Wall Street wanted them to focus on mobility. on smart mobility, on self-driving cars. And so they replaced a guy who was an engineer who was doing very well with a product line because they want to focus on renting the cars to you, on controlling all of your transportation. And today we have the CEO of Intel coming out and saying self-driving cars will double as security cameras. He said the benefits of having self-driving cars are they're going to be able to park themselves for you. Oh, that's great. That's exactly what I need because I can't park or drive a car on my own. But he says they're going to double as security cameras. We're going to be able to get them to find a license plate for somebody that we're looking for with an Amber Alert. They're going to find that quite rapidly. And then when they say, well, what about privacy? He says, oh, don't worry. We'll put limitations on it. We'll encrypt that data. We'll make sure that it's anonymous. It's not, we'll have to come up with some rules, but don't worry about that. Well, how are the rules working to protect us from our government spying on us? That's something that went back to the 1960s. That's why we had the hearings in the 1970s about the NSA and the CIA spying on Americans and tapping our phones. And they said, you're not going to do that. So they created the FISA Act, Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Authorization. Now they have violated that. Now we see that Obama and the FBI acted like high-tech Watergate burglars. That's what we're going to find out with the investigations into the Russian hacking. But they're going farther. They're looking at hardware updates for the human brain. This Orwellian story from Wall Street Journal cloaks itself in medical benefits. And of course, there would be medical benefits for some of these things. But as we look at this and we look at what the Department of Defense is doing, they always come out and say, well, we're going to help people with PTSD. We're going to be able to selectively remove bad memories, and we're going to put in good, happy memories. If people are concerned about a government that is too intrusive, we'll be able to take away those bad thoughts and put in nice, happy thoughts. That is the thing that we should be concerned about. And when we look at the language that the Wall Street Journal uses, brain-computer interface, that could turn us into programmable, debuggable machines. Because, you know, if you don't like what the government is doing, you need to be debugged. And now we have, for the first time, a politician in California, Gavin Newsom, one guy who is one of the biggest gun control nuts out there, among other things. I know him from that. I don't know the other issues that he's out there. But really, when we look at a Democrat solution to this, and unfortunately, we're not going to see, I don't think, a liberty-based solution. We're going to see a ham-fisted, crony, capitalist solution. Now, stay with us when we come back. Millie Weaver has a Man on the Street report where she goes around talking to people about how CNN staged this fake anti-terror demonstration from some Muslim women in London. We'll be right back.
Electrify your day with Secret 12. It's like lightning in a bottle. We all have days in which we just can't seem to perform at the level we'd like to. Infowars Life Secret 12 is designed to naturally energize your body and mind with 2 great tasting and super high quality forms of vitamin B12. Proper vitamin and nutrient intake is essential to keep your body functioning at optimum levels. The reality is, it's hard to take in the proper amount of vitamins we need each day with our modern diets. Secret 12 by Infowars Life is an easy way to naturally upgrade your vitamin B12 intake and support your body's natural systems. It pairs 2 forms of vitamin B12 into one explosive formula. Vitamin B12 supports healthy energy levels through red blood cell formation and aiding in the body's natural processes, but it also assists with many other functions of the body. Electrify your mind and body and take your health to the next level. Experience the power of Secret 12 at InfoWarsLife.com. That's InfoWarsLife.com.
Vitamin Mineral Fusion. Visit InfoWarsLife.com to secure your canister. We have worked for years with our chemists and scientists to create the most powerful and affordable, great-tasting multivitamin formula available. Vitamin Mineral Fusion Drink Mix at InfoWarsLife.com is loaded with a full month supply of essential vitamins, minerals, and amino acids that your body absolutely needs. In the history of InfoWars Life, we've brought out a lot of amazing products like Survival Shield X2, Super Male Vitality, and so many others. With its unique delivery system and proprietary manufacturing process designed for maximized effects, this formula is the platinum standard of multivitamin mineral products. And this part is most important. The ingredients in Vitamin Mineral Fusion are either plant-derived or of the highest quality lab standard. That means it's clean. That means it's pure. And rest assured, you're fighting the tip of the spear in the info war. That's InfoWarsLife.com and Vitamin Mineral Fusion. Take action now before we sell out. We have have the new product at InfoWarsLife.com, BioTrue Selenium.
We've had so many requests over the years for selenium, and just recently we were able to source a certified organic bioavailable selenium from mustard seed extract. When you take selenium in the body, it actually benefits the detoxification systems in your body. It helps balance the thyroid gland. It helps detoxify.
Selenium is another one of those absolute must-haves.
The highest concentration of selenium is in the thyroid gland, but it's actually used all over the body. As a matter of fact, there's 25 genes in the body that are directly dependent upon selenium. So it really is a all-around nutrient that everybody really needs.
I'm taking it now every day. This is so key. BioTrue Selenium is the product, the best selenium that we could bring you. We believe it's the best out there at a very, very low price. Exclusively available at InfoWarsLife.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139. We're selling a product, DNA Force, that is the very best nutraceutical that we can produce. Dr. Group, you took years for you to develop DNA Force for us.
It's been something that I've been working on for a long time, Alex, because I think it's very, very important. What the aging process is when the cell replicates, we lose a little bit of our telomeres. Telomeres are the little cups on the end of our chromosomes.
And when it runs out, you start dying.
We chose the PQQ because it has over 175 different clinical trials. It's one of the most effective substances in the world. It works like an antioxidant. It works to repair nerve growth factor.
So this is a formula to deliver the maximum amount. It's in powder form.
We have so many 5-star reviews. I take this. This is the product that I take.
InfoWarsLife.com, and the profit we make, we fight the globals. We fight the New World Order. Secure your DNA Force today at InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139.
Do you think that CNN is fake news? Uh-oh. Millie Weaver reporting for Infowars.com. Well, CNN was caught faking the news yet again. They were caught staging fake peaceful protesters where a London terrorist attack had just happened. So let's go ahead and ask some of these people in Austin whether or not they think that CNN is fake news. Do you guys think that CNN is fake news?
No comment.
Do you think that CNN is fake news?
Sometimes.
Sometimes? Do you think CNN is fake news?
I think that's obvious.
Probably not fake, but perhaps biased.
CNN. Sometimes.
What about you?
At points, I think it's definitely fake.
Do you think that a lot of it's propaganda?
I would say, yeah, definitely.
I try to stay away from the CNN and the full international news because I think it's all bull. But
I don't know about fake, but definitely that's not where I get my news from. They're not very helpful. Yeah.
So you don't think that they're the most trusted news source out there?
No. No, not really.
Do you think that CNN is fake news?
Of course. I always did. I do, yes.
You do?
I do, yes.
Did you hear about...
Do you?
I do.
Do you? Good.
yes. Yes, they are.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes?
Yes.
Yep.
Do you think CNN is fake news?
Absolutely, yes.
Did you guys hear about them recently being caught staging fake protesters in London?
Which one? Or which time?
I saw that on Facebook, actually.
Did you hear about CNN recently getting caught staging news?
Nope. Didn't hear about that.
Would that surprise you at all?
Not really. No. Answer that. Nope. Nope.
They were staging. Yeah, I could see that. That's pretty terrible.
I saw Alex report on that this morning. So, yeah, that's pretty messed up.
Do you think that the ethics in journalism nowadays needs to improve? Do you think it's becoming a problem?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. Yep.
People look up to them as reporters, and then they follow what they're doing or what their opinions are, and I think that's messed up because that's not your own opinion just because, like you said, that they're staging stuff. So that's messed up, really messed up.
Yeah, definitely. And this was right after a terrorist attack happened in London. So, I mean, people died.
Yes, that's sad. That's really sad to hear that they would do that.
Do you think that journalists should have more integrity?
I think we all should. Absolutely.
I mean, if they don't have integrity, then how are average people like us supposed to know what's going on?
with, things that are above our head, like politics and stuff like that.
Yes, because they're doing a service to the community to inform the people on what the issues are, not what their side of what their opinion is. It's, you're going to ferret out the facts as best you see them and report them as best you see them impartially. To me, that's what it should be about.
Where do you get your news from?
Honestly, Facebook. Facebook's pretty up to date as far as which is pretty sad, but
just like from people posting articles that they've vetted out.
Yeah, I got some pretty political buddies out there, so they're always posting their thoughts on the World Wide Web. Yeah.
What about you?
Probably the same, actually. Surprisingly.
Yeah. I don't blame you guys.
Where do you get your news?
Infowars.com.
Oh, look at you, a little plugging away.
Are you guys from CNN?
No.
Or am I being set up here?
No, I'm not from CNN.
Okay, who are you from?
Infowars.
Alex Jones, you rock, brother. Yeah.
I was actually surprised with how many people believe that CNN is fake news and can't be trusted. Well, not really.
We're about to have a short course in missile identification. This is a Scud. You can tell it by its distinctive label. Now, when the missile is launched, the first thing you look for is the plume sticking out behind it. Now, when you detect this, you can tell it's been launched.
I'm not going to fall into the trap of us being the spin meisters when CNN is one of the greatest purveyors of fake news.
Don, this is a fake news story, in my opinion, because the underlying assumption
Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. Good night, all.
Thanks, Don. Thanks, Don.
But I don't watch CNN, so I don't get to see as much as I don't like watching fake news.
Because of the attack of fake news and attacking our network, I just want to ask you, sir.
I'm changing it from fake news, though.
Doesn't that undermine...
Very fake news.
I know, but aren't you...
Yeah.
But remember, guys, Infowars has a $200,000 worth of prizes for this contest to expose the fake news that CNN peddles and the terrorism that they were supporting when Kathy Griffin did a staged photo where she held up a mock head of President Trump. So remember, guys, we have those shirts for sale at InfoWarsStore.com. CNN is a terrorist. Make sure you get them, get your signs as well, and go get out there in front of the fake news mainstream media to let other people know just how fake they really are. This is Millie Weaver signing off for Infowars.com.
Seven people were killed and almost 50 injured when marauding terrorists went on a van and knife rampage in London last night. Because carrying on exactly as before after the Manchester bombing worked out great, didn't it? The terrorists shouted, "This is for Allah," while they slashed at women's throats.
When you're saying they were stabbing everyone, what did you actually see them do?
They were running up going, "This is for Allah." When they first see him, they went, "This is for Allah," and they run up, they stabbed this girl, I don't know how many times, 10 times, maybe 15 times, and she was going, help me, and I could not do nothing.
The BBC has footage of the terrorists saying this, but is still refusing to broadcast it. The attack was celebrated again by Muslim viewers of Al Jazeera. 41 attacks and 451 dead so far during Ramadan. One of the victims says he was approached by a man who said, "This is for Islam," before sticking a knife in him. But of course all this has nothing to do with Islam. The accomplices were arrested in Barking, where we paid for police to protect Islamist hate speech back in 2010. Once again, the community failed to alert authorities to terrorists in their midst, proving this is a far bigger problem than just radical Islam. But Sadiq Khan said terrorism is just part and parcel of living in a big city. Except if you live in Tokyo, Budapest, Prague, Warsaw, etc, etc, etc. Or any other big city without a huge Muslim population. Higher Muslim population, higher terror problem. Fact. Theresa May's response? To regulate the internet. Not a word about changing a border policy that allows ISIS jihadists who fought in Syria to slip back into the country. Not a word about interning the thousands of known jihadists who are allowed to roam our streets. Not a word about tackling the hateful ideology spread through mosques and prisons that inspires these attacks. Not a single word. Pathetic. May wants longer prison sentences for terrorists. Oh gee, that's really going to deter a would-be suicide bomber, isn't it? She says this ideology is a perversion of Islam, proving once again that she hasn't read the Quran. Hey, at least if we elect Corbyn, we'll be honest about the fact that we've totally capitulated. And what are leftists most outraged about? The innocent victims crushed and stabbed, their blood running down the gutter? No. They're more outraged about Donald Trump's frigging tweets. We can't go on like this. If the government doesn't introduce actual measures to fix this, vigilante groups will take it into their own hands. You'll see a spate of hate crimes, and the left will be more upset over that than the actual terrorist attacks. We need a total ban on people coming into the country from terror-linked countries, except if they're politicians, journalists or doctors. If you're coming from Libya, Syria or any of these countries without good reason, no, you're not getting in. We need to seriously look at capping Muslim immigration into the UK. We need a massive surveillance program targeting mosques and the immediate arrest of anyone preaching jihadism. We need known Islamists in prison to be put in solitary confinement for the duration of their sentence so they can't radicalise others. We need the thousands of known jihadists in the UK locked up for life or permanently deported. Those are actual solutions. Lighting a candle, tweeting hashtags and lecturing me about Islamophobia isn't a solution. That's surrender. That's capitulation. How about we honour the victims with more than just words and empty platitudes?
Alex Jones here with a very important news update to anybody out there that wants to be prepared. But it goes beyond being prepared. Our bodies absolutely must have the good halogen iodine or we will die. And you look at all of the thyroid problems and all the people that don't have energy and that have all sorts of hormone problems. And from my research, and a lot of just mainline research, it leads back to iodine over and over and over again. It's as important as vitamin C. If you don't get iodine, you die. But most people are just deficient, so they're low energy, they're sick. You got to have iodine in your body so that your body can produce the hormones you need. It is the base to so many things. And since I got into iodine 4 years ago, we've helped change the entire paradigm by developing and bringing to the public deep earth crystals from 7,000 to 12,000 feet of the purest iodine available. Other iodine comes from the ocean or from other byproducts of chemical facilities, and it's tainted. It's bound. It's not absorbable. I tried it. And I had incredible effects even with dirty iodine because the body needs it. When you don't have iodine, it absorbs the chlorine, the fluoride, and all these other bad halogens. Do yourself and your family a favor and check out the importance of iodine for yourself. I think you're going to be blown away. And whatever you do, support the broadcast and get a bottle of Survival Shield Nascent Iodine X2. Also consult your physician because if you've been deficient in it or have other issues, it can have some dramatic effects. As for me and most folks I talk to, it's been a game changer in the positive column, but still consult your physician because iodine is no joke. It's a key building block of the body. And if you haven't had it for a long time and suddenly have it, some folks say they've experienced things like a detoxing effect and things like that. You've got to have vitamin C. You've got to have iodine to live. You've got to have water to live. Iodine is key. You must have it, but consult your physician first before you get powerful Survival Shield Nascent Iodine X2 at InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free. We can answer your questions, 888-253-3139.
The latest issue of the Islamic State's weekly newspaper, Al-Naba, released 2 days ago, warned that another terrorist attack in Britain was definitely coming. Al-Naba, a 16-page color newsletter, is distributed within ISIS territory, but it is also posted and distributed online via the usual ISIS mediums, such as Telegram and social media. This according to PJ Media. England's Prime Minister Theresa May has responded to the online availability of ISIS threats.
We cannot allow this ideology the safe space it needs to breed. Yet that is precisely what the internet and the big companies that provide internet-based services provide. We need to work with allied democratic governments to reach international agreements that regulate cyberspace to prevent the spread of extremist and terrorism planning. And we need to do everything we can at home to reduce the risks of extremism online.
While the mayor of London called for people to not be alarmed that innocent people were being mowed over and stabbed by Islamic terrorists in the heart of London.
Well, just like terrorists are constantly evolving, finding new ways to disrupt us, harm us, attack us, the police and experts and all of us are finding new ways to keep us safe. Londoners will see an increased police presence today and over the course of the next few days. No reason to be alarmed.
Clearly, there is reason to be alarmed. Apparently, even with a warning, there is just so much UK police can safeguard against while the general public remains defenseless. The terror attack began on London Bridge around 10 p.m. as tourists and pedestrians stopped to take photos of the scenic landscape. Out of nowhere, a van reaching speeds of 50 miles per hour plowed through the bystanders, killing 7 and wounding over 45. The 3 attackers, wearing fake suicide belts, then continued to Borough Market, where they got out of the van and began stabbing people.
The terrorists were confronted and shot by armed officers within 8 minutes of the police receiving the first emergency call.
Eyewitnesses reported hearing the attackers say, "This is for Allah." Regardless, mainstream media dragged its feet on labeling it as terrorism. As the gruesome details unfolded, President Trump tweeted, "We need to be smart, vigilant, and tough. We need the courts to give us back our rights. We need the travel ban as an extra level of safety." The response from the left was predictable. CNN host Reza Aslan tweeted, "This piece of shit is not just an embarrassment to America and a stain on the presidency, he's an embarrassment to humankind." And a group of Muslims in a bizarre show of solidarity prayed in front of Trump Tower.
And we are here in front of the Trump Tower, which is just really a symbol of the kind of policies and the divisiveness and the hatred that we have seen come out of this administration that has really led to divisiveness of our communities or to divide our communities. And here we're showing this is what New York City looks like. People, black people, brown people, progressive Jews and progressive white allies who have come here to say, we will break bread with you, we will stand in solidarity, we will embrace you, and we will stand with you against hate and divisiveness.
No, it's not the fact that there's no real response from any Islamic leaders while innocent people are killed and maimed on a regular basis. No, that wouldn't have anything to do with divisiveness. It's our president that's responsible. That's right. Our president calls for the protection of U.S. citizens from the possibility of events spiraling out of control as they are in the UK, and the left wants to rub tolerance in our faces.
I don't think that a major terrorist attack like this is the time to be divisive and to criticize a mayor who's trying to organize his city's response to this attack. The terrorists want us to live in a state of constant fear.
Why does the left have the power to condone the deaths of innocent people in what is clearly Islamic Jihad, shielded by an ongoing taqiyya under the umbrella of the left's misguided and dangerous political correctness? John Bound for Infowars.com.
6.5 million refugees the last 5 years into Europe and the UK. Do you ban everybody's free speech and have a big internet police force internationally to stop Islamic terror? Or do you stop bringing people in from the failed state of Libya, the failed state of Syria, the failed state of Iraq? Obviously, you stop bringing in the people that are doing the attacks. But let's go further. The EU, the United Nations, the different Soros funds that are openly funding the Arab Spring, that are openly funding and promoting all this jihadist garbage, they need to get in trouble for what they've done. And they need to stop financing the most radical forms of Islam to go around conquering the Middle East. It is a fact that there are a lot of America haters in this world. And it is a fact there are a lot of globalist that are trying to destroy the freedoms we have in the West and the middle class, and that they are allied with the most nasty, despicable, disgusting, murderous forms of Orthodox Wahhabi Islam. Now, you think about Europe. 5 million military-age men, many of them off the battlefields of the Middle East, who kill each other in their own towns and cities, one-upping each other on who's the most Islamic. You bring in these radicalized people that are constantly competing with each other for who can be more backward. Then you have the left that's so busy apologizing for him and who's been endorsing him so long, they will never say that they were in the wrong. So they'll never back off defending it. Where you've got major newspapers and major publications saying, let's not be mean to Muslims, let's back off, let's not say this is an Islamic attack. Remember, Obama would never call terror Islamic terror or radical Islamic terror. That's because in the whacked out Islamic ideology, it's not controlled by the globalist. It's just let in. The door's just opened. It hates liberals, gays, lesbians, rock and roll, pop music. They went and targeted a bunch of teenagers, you know, dressed up, in many cases, provocatively, because that's what drives radical Orthodox Islam up a wall. They kill women that go out dressed like that in public. They rape women, and if the woman complains, she's charged with adultery. She's charged with the sex crime. That's a fact. And then they bring in 5 million men, military-age men, another million or so women and children. You watch the videos of thousands coming in, none of them are old men. None of them are old women. Because they're being sent on the jihad. There's, what, 5 pillars of jihad? And you've also got to go to Mecca at least once in life for the Hajj. But bigger than the Hajj is when the jihad comes, the physical jihad, you go forth. And ISIS said 4 years ago, ISIS announces plans to use refugees to flood Europe. Type it in, you'll get Infowars.com and Zero Hedge First from 2014. 4 years ago, 5 years ago. There it is. That's September 8, 2015. That's one of the older ones. Flashback, ISIS threatens to send 500,000 migrants to Europe as psychological weapon. They go on to announce embedded within them are ISIS fighters. Now estimated 3,000 in England, 500 plots they've stopped or that are ongoing. That was last week. So, again, we're acting like this is a mystery. We said, you're bringing in people out of failed Syria, failed Libya, where our governments went, funded the revolution to overthrow secular governments, in Egypt as well, then put radicals in charge that blow up every church, murder every Christian, kill every Jew, every Shiite, every non-radical Muslim they can get their hands on. Taxpayers are paying to bring this in to create a clash of civilization so then they can then say, we've got to regulate the internet. We've got to take free speech. So you bring them in, they create the crisis. Oh, we got to get rid of internet freedom now, something Soros openly said he wants. Oh, we got to have an international group do it. Oh, we've got to take your rights away now. We've got to set up checkpoints on the highways, but we're going to bring in more of the Islamists.
That's it for tonight's Nightly News. Thank you for joining us. Join us again tomorrow night at 7 Central, 8 p.m. Eastern for the Infowars Nightly News.
And all you ISIS people threatening us, hey, we're not a French newspaper, okay? We got people that have taken your asses out in this building right now. We're armed to the teeth, and we're not scared. You got that, you sons of bitches? This is Texas. You want to threaten me, you can go straight to hell. You understand that?
Never water yourself down just because someone can't handle you at 100 proof. It's the Alex Jones Show, because there's a war on for your mind.
I am very proud to announce the introduction of the highest quality Infowars Biome Defense Probiotic. We wanted to come out with the largest spectrum of high quality known probiotics that have been proven to improve overall digestion and health and detoxification in the body. Biome Defense is an exclusive blend of 50 billion live and active cultures from over 23 different probiotic strains that are known to support digestion and intestinal function. Our researchers are confident that we have been able to develop what will be the leading probiotic on the market. Secure your Biome Defense in ultra strength or regular strength at InfoWarsLife.com today and get started supporting your digestive system naturally. We've been testing this formula for years, but this is the limited first run to the public, so please take advantage of it today. Support your own health and support the InfoWar.
Welcome to the Infowars Nightly News. I'm David Knight. It's Monday, June 5th, 2017. Here are our top stories.
Tonight, say it isn't so. One of the terrorists who carried out Saturday night's deadly rampage in London turns out to be a Muslim refugee. Meanwhile, heroes begin to emerge from the London Bridge as we look at one of the men who led the charge in fighting against the terrorists. Then, how do we fight radical Muslim extremists, border patrol, and armed citizens? Not federal government control of the internet. All that, plus the ultimate culture clash, Islam versus Christianity. That's coming up next on the Infowars Nightly News.
During this Memorial Day, I want to thank the veterans that have fought, but of course, most importantly, those that have died, because that's what this holiday and remembrance is all about. Take advantage of these unprecedented specials and help support the tip of the spear in the fight against the globalists while supplies last. These are the biggest sales ever on these items. You add auto ship, several of these are lost leaders. So for myself and the entire InfoWars crew, I salute you and thank you for all your prayers on this Memorial Day. Just understand that without you, there'd be nothing, because you are the InfoWar.
Does your shampoo leave your scalp itchy and your hair dry and frizzy? Introducing Emmerich's Essentials Natural Herbal Shampoo. Made with organic oils for an exhilarating fragrance. Enjoy all-natural and chemical-free shampoo for a healthier you. Gentle enough for color-treated hair and sensitive scalps. Only pure, organic, antiseptic herbs that have demonstrated antimicrobial activity are used. Go natural. Go organic. No parabens or sulfates. Nothing to weigh you down. Get cleaner, healthier hair with Emmerich's Essentials Tea Tree Shampoo.
By their fruit, you will know them. A good tree will give forth good fruit. A bad tree will give forth bad fruit. We have to understand that civilizations and cultures are based upon a system of beliefs. So we're going to look tonight at a couple of individuals out of this London attack. We're going to take a look at what kind of culture, what kind of man Islam produces, and what kind of culture and man the Lord Jesus Christ produces. So we're going to take a look at a gleeful terrorist and the Christian hero, a reluctant hero who stopped him. Now, we've got other attacks that are happening today because, of course, it is Ramadan, and it has absolutely nothing to do with Islam, right? Except that during Ramadan, we have seen just a week ago in Baghdad, we had dozens of people killed with bombings in Iraq. We had in the Muslim Philippines a massive outbreak of terrorism that looks like Syria. Entire towns are being fought for. We have martial law that is still in effect there. And now in Australia, we have a gunman taking hostages, telling the station This is for ISIS. He took a woman hostage. He is suspected of killing another man. He called up a TV newsroom during the siege to claim, this is for IS, this is for Al-Qaeda, this is for Allah, folks. This is what the terrorist said last week. And, even before we knew those kinds of details, as soon as I heard this, I tweeted out, unconfirmed reports. We got a car that's driven into a crowd, I said at the time. I said 3 men jumped out. It's what we're hearing at the moment. And this is as it first happened. Jumped out with knives or slitting throats. They stabbed a girl in the chest and so forth. I said, religion of peace, because that's what we always hear. And I had somebody come back and say, very Christian of you. What would Jesus say? And I said, well, try reading what Jesus said and did. He whipped the bankers. These are the same guys that are starting the wars, that are bringing in the terrorists today. She said, I was brought up on Christianity, and I don't recognize any of your beliefs. And I said, and then she said, try thinking for yourself and stop relying on ancient texts. Well, she doesn't understand it, but those ancient texts are the foundations of societies, of cultures, of civilizations. And if you don't understand the foundations of the Islamic culture and beliefs, if you don't understand that our pluralistic society, our tolerant society, is truly based on Christianity, then you're going to lose something very valuable. You know, the entire worldwide caliphate that doesn't exist, but that the Muslims are trying to create, the fact that it doesn't exist is an affront to the truth, to the falsity of their religion. You know, we had one of the other things that Jesus said about the good fruit, the bad fruit. He also said, beware of false prophets who come dressed in sheep clothing, but inside they are ravaging wolves. And that's precisely what we see with this individual. This is a guy, 27-year-old Karam Shahzad Butt, who came to Britain as a child when his parents were looking for asylum from Pakistan because their religion and the foundation of that society was tearing it apart. So he came as the son of a refugee. And one woman, as we have on the Infowars report from Paul Joseph Watson, one woman who didn't want to be named, of course, because why? There would be recriminations from the religion of peace. Do not offend them. They will kill you. She said she stared angrily whenever he saw women cycling on the estate, bicycling on the area. She described him as sinister and sexist. Well, maybe that's why this coward stabbed multiple women in the chest, slit their throats. He didn't just hate women. He hates anybody who does not subscribe to his false religion. And as Watson goes on to point out, the same documentary that he was featured in, and this is the key, folks, that the British government knew they were there. The British television station, BBC, Channel 4, did a documentary, The Jihadis Next Door. They featured that last year. He was featured